it's me. I can't believe we finished another year of full painting in October. This is now the 4th year that I joined, and it really feels, I can't believe it's the 4th year, because I still remember the first year in my small room painting before I went to the paper store every morning. In this video I wanted to just talk through about what I learned this year and how off the painting went, and just go piece by piece. Some pieces, they're not too interesting, and others I'll just talk through a bit, because this year I do think I took a bit of a different approach than the previous 3 years, which I'll get into later, but I hope you enjoy. I'll just be painting in the background. I will be painting and just put the paintings on the screen. So starting off, 1st of October was Cave. Immediately I was so taken aback by the response of it, which just felt so heartwarming. I do think it's always important to remember that in the beginning of these challenges, and I noticed it this year again, where in the beginning of the challenges there's a lot of comments and everything, and that kind of goes down. That doesn't mean your art is less worthy or less good, because I did make some of my favorite pieces near the end, but they just had no engagement. That's okay. You have to really ignore that. That's what I do. I still like the paintings for what I did. But yeah, it was the first piece, and the thing that I mentioned that I did differently this year is that normally I don't tidy up the illustrations digitally with the background too much, which causes that color difference if you look at all the tiles in the grids together. This year I decided I would tidy up the background, and that caused for the whole series to have a very one feeling, if to say so. Which did cost a little bit of time, but it's also due to the paper that I used. That I wrote a lot about it on Patreon. I did a bit of a paper review there, because the paper that I used had a lot of bleeding issues and texture issues. So it was both a choice and both a necessity. We'll go to 2, Dandelion. So this is an example where the actual flower looked different in the painting than it did digitally after I tidied it up. Because I knew I was gonna do, the digital aspect of it, of removing the background, I also knew I had more freedom with making messy textures on the paper and making sure the paper illustration or the original illustration wasn't perfect all the time, which created a lot of freedom in getting out of the rust of working with ink. And the same happened with number 3 for Cowboy, where the actual boots had a line in them, which I took out because it didn't work. And unfortunately with ink you can't take things back. Pencil you can still try to erase, ink not so much. Number 4, Tiger. It was fun. I tried a lot to work with the bleed as well, because I did that with the bats of Cave, and you'll see that throughout. For instance, in number 6, for Tree, if I remember right. The way I work with ink is that I enjoy wet on wet techniques a lot, where I will dilute the ink a lot and then put down the shape where I want it light, and then with a more saturated ink I will go around the edge of that little water stain, which creates these textures and flows. It does mean it's very, very hard to control, but if it works, it works. And a lot of this is about giving up control. I'll skip a bit over 5 and 8. I'm actually looking at the paintings on my profile now, and I know 7 is there as well. Okay. You might notice that I haven't left up every single painting on my feed this year as well. I do that most years, but this year I think I did it quicker than usual. That's because sometimes they really annoy me. I think with challenges where you paint for every day during a month, it can very quickly, you can very quickly overanalyze your own work. And sometimes the more you look at something, it doesn't become prettier. And that's usually something that happens during these challenges with me. So I archive them when they really annoy me in my feed, but they're still there. I painted them, and then usually like half a year later, I'm like, oh no, it wasn't actually that bad, and then I could just put it back up. It's just a bit of a self-protection. One that I really enjoyed as well was number, which day was it, 13? That was Tail, which was a costume based on Frege. Charles Frege is a French photographer. He does great photographs. I felt then still confident enough, like 14 Town. All of these are fairly simple, Field as well. That was number 11. I enjoyed doing the simple shapes and the values and the textures. And it's actually in 15 Shell where you can see that I've used the bleed of the paper in my advantage at one point to create the needles of the hedgehogs. And then I think I hit a bit of a rut. I think it was after 19 Booth, which I really, really, really love. I love the little shoes. I don't know why. It's just, I think because I painted very easily and it was a good morning. But after that, there was a lot of concept painting and a lot of trying over. And you'll see that as well when I start posting multiple versions of stuff, like 20 Spaceship, and I know I took down a couple around here as well, but we're all already, started nearing the end, where 21 was bun, and you can see the difference. So my aim this year was to keep it manageable for myself, which really is an aim every year. But I think you really have to assess what is manageable for you at that time with these kind of challenges. Because for me, finishing them, I find very important. Because I of course, I enjoy the act of painting, but I also really enjoy finishing the challenge. So I would feel really icky if I didn't do that. And because of my work and other things and my studies, I had very, very limited time. So you'll see on the days as well where I had very limited time, and then the days where I had some more time. For instance, 24 Castle was definitely a day with some more time. I actually painted this castle 3 times, and it didn't even match my sketch at all. But it turned out pretty cute. I would definitely live there. And by the way, looking at this, I want to give a short shout out to Nonsensical Whimsies saying, "Could the king's horses put Humpty back together again?" I thought that was just very clever. I answered in their words, "Nay." If you get it. And then there were just a few last one. We've got Will and Pet and Sleepy. I completely copped out. This year of Peachtober, I look back on with joy. I will say that, but also remembering sometimes there was quite a lot of struggling, because I normally get to enjoy the process a lot more because of the time I have, but that wasn't the case this year, which some days made it felt more like a task instead of something I really wanted to do. But still, I look back on so many of you, interacting with them and really looking forward to the pieces and telling me that you did, which was amazing, and I really hope you enjoyed. I know this isn't a as much in-depth video as I did of last year's Peachtober, maybe because of the time, but sometimes I don't feel like I have too much to say about it. I enjoyed it. Thank you for all your love. Of course, I'll see you next year with more ink, but in between I'll see you as well. Okay, if you joined, I hope you enjoyed, and keep some of the tips that I mentioned in the beginning post in mind, for any time in your art life. Alright, thank you for watching, stay good and talk soon. Bye!
Yeah, but like now we're starting to book all the convention, and I'm getting all the dates, so I'm taking pieces of the days. So it's going to be here from like the 15th to the 5th, from December to January. And then we all have school holiday from like the 23rd until the 5th, so I'm going to try and take